दर्शन करता,
ओम नमो हरिहंताणं,
सिद्ध प्रभु ना दर्शन करता,
ओम नमो सिद्धाणं,
आचार्यों ने वंदन करता,
ओम नमो आयर्याणं,
उपाध्याय ने वंदन करता,
ओम नमो उपाध्यायाणं,
सर्व साधु ने वंदन करता,
नमो लोये सब साहूणं,
सम्यक दर्शन मुझने मर्जो,
देशो पंचन मुक्तारो,
सम्यक ज्ञान मुझने मर्जो,
सौवा पाप परासनो,
सम्यक चारित्र मुझने मर्जो,
मंगलानं च सर्वेषु,
नवपदनी आराधना करता,
परमं हवै मंगलम्, परमं हवै मंगलम्, परमं हवै मंगलम्.
Good evening. Welcome to the talk on Live and Let Live. The idea behind this talk is, do we allow our loved ones to live? And it's something we need to think about. I'd like to introduce the panel from the committee, which is Prafulla Shah, the Vice Chair, Nikita Shah, who's the new Health and Wellbeing Lead for Northwest Area, and myself is Monica Shah. And I used to be on the committee. Okay, so I'd like to start by introducing Varsha Hathi, one of our main speakers. She's a dedicated and accredited divorce coach who draws on personal experience, having navigated her own divorce. She's a proud mother of 2 beautiful daughters, and she brings empathy, wisdom, practical solutions in helping her clients, in guiding them through the complexities of love and separation, with the support of many, supporting many, and have found a path towards brighter futures. Our other speaker today is Rishma, and she actually came forward herself to say she wanted to talk to us, to support the community, which is amazing. She is the daughter of Chittubai, if anybody knows, from Ekta Center, daughter-in-law, sorry, I lie. And she's a mother of 2, an 8 and 10-year-old. Her career started in finance and consulting, and she's now a fully accredited mediator. She's on a number of panels of for mediation, and she also runs her own mediation practice. Finally, she is also a board member of the Family Mediation Standard Accreditation Panel. I'd like to pass on to Varsha Ben, who'll now be talking.
Apologies. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk here about what I do and what I'm so passionate about. My name is Varsha Hathi, and I'm an accredited relationship and divorce coach. Divorce, we count it as a negative word, and maybe it is, but we want to re-educate ourselves as to what this word means to a lot of people and why it is here where it is. When we go into a marriage, it's such a sacred thing. We never think that we're going to go for a divorce, and we don't go with those thoughts. But life happens, and divorce comes in the way. I'm just going to start off my slides so that I can talk you through the different things I do. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey and why I'm here today. Right. So here we go. Right. So we want to embrace the changes, and divorce is one of the topics that we don't all want to talk about. But one thing we do want to talk about is that we have one life only. And how do we make it meaningful? How do we make it purposeful? And how do we love ourselves? We want that relationships with ourselves first, to love ourselves first, and then only can we love other people. Then only can we love our husband the same way, and our children and our parents. But the first love is the love to ourselves, and that is self-love. So how can we do that? The one life, what does it mean? Who are you beyond being the child of your parent? Who are you beyond being a brother, a sister, being a parent to your children, or being a grandparent? Who are you? What is the purpose? We all come with a purpose for this life. What is your purpose in life? And is marriage what it is, that is your purpose? What is it that is your purpose is what we're going to talk about. And this particular topic, divorce, it's got a lot of stigma attached to it. And we just want to expand our minds in our communities and how the communities can support us and guide people who are going through this, because lots of marriages these days end up where they're not meant to be. And this is something we have to accept, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. And the thought here goes to, if we go into a marriage and when we go into a marriage and we're empowered what marriage is, what a marriage means, what communication means within a marriage, what the love languages mean. There's so many ways we can make marriages work. And I'm not here to advocate divorce at all. Not at all. I'm here to support and guide anybody to try and make the marriage work. And if only it's not working and you've tried everything possible, then you can move on to the next bit. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to start the next slide here. We're going to talk about all these different topics. And we're going to do an introduction. We have a historical content. We're going to talk about the social stigma, the impact divorce would have on an individual, on the family, on the society, on your children, and the people around you, your family and friends. We're going to go through how the children go through the motions of divorce and the pressures which are being put on an individual, not only by themselves, but by society and by everybody else around them. And the emotional impact a bad relationship can have on yourself and your well-being. And today's topic is about live and let live. So we want to talk about living this life fruitfully and happily, and also letting others live the same way so that they can live a better life. We want to reframe this word divorce. And we want to talk about intimacy as well, because it's a topic we don't like talking about, but it's something within a marriage. It's important and it needs to be addressed and talked about. And it's something which I need to touch on just a little bit. So we're not going to go too deep into that, but we're going to talk about that. And then my final parting thoughts and final parting suggestions, if I may. So my name is Varsha Hathi. Today, I'm a divorce coach because of my journey and from where I come from. I myself was married. And when I went into that marriage, never did I ever think that I was going to get divorced at one stage or one day. I entered the marriage thinking, this is for life. This is where my life is going to be. And this, I'm going to end my life being married. Never thought ever. I didn't even know the word divorce at that time. Yeah. It's strange how when you go along the marriage and you find yourself in a position where you're really trying to make your marriage work and you're trying everything possible. So I was married to an alcoholic, just giving you a little history on this and how I tried in every possible way to try and sustain my marriage and make it work with rehabs and everything.
Varsha,
Yes.
sorry, can you put your slides on slideshow mode?
Yeah, let me try doing that. Yes. Yeah, is that better?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Sorry about that. So yeah, you go through marriage not obviously thinking it's going to end up in a divorce, and you try and make that marriage work. And I would reiterate that this whole conversation today is not about getting anybody divorced or asking anybody to get divorced. What we want to do is empower those people who are not in a great relationship to either make the marriage work, or we're going to empower you how to make your life better, come out the other end stronger, and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and how, as a community, we can support a person going through divorce. So I was telling a little bit about my life. So I ended up in a place where I had to make the decision of, do I save myself and the children, or do I stay in this marriage going downhill with somebody who doesn't want to help themselves? And as much as you have tried and helped that person, you're going downhill with them. because when you're in a abusive marriage, whether it's physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, there are so many different kinds of abuses. Financial abuse, it does take a toll on you and on your mental health. And there are signs of getting depressed and other thoughts behind that. So do you let yourself go and go into that place where you're going to be depressed and you can't do much for yourself or your children? Or are you going to find a better place and try your level best and walk out? And that's the decision I made at that time. And it was a very tough decision. I did not take it lightly. I tried everything possible. And then I had to decide to come out and help myself and my children. So enough about me today. We've talked about me, and here I am today, a divorce coach, because of that, because I felt there was not enough support out there for our community when they're going through divorce, because I did knock on many doors and didn't find that support. So I became an accredited divorce coach, and I support and help, especially women going through divorce or thinking of divorce or even sorting their relationship out. And I do that within our community more than any other communities. So feel welcome to get in touch if you need to. We all see divorce as a very negative subject, and divorce can still carry a social stigma in some communities, leading to judgment and isolation for the individual. Some people still carry the internalized stigma and set themselves as failures. So when one person's going through a divorce or thinking of a divorce, they think they're a failure. They think that they are the sole person who can make that marriage work. But it takes two to tango. And if the two are not going together as a rail track, where both the rail tracks need to be same, then that marriage is not going to work. And you can keep trying, and it's not going to work. Both of you need to compromise and work together at it, whether it's communication skills or whatever it is. So kudos to all of you who are in a happy marriage, because it takes a lot of work to keep a marriage going, because you have your ups and downs, you have your kids, you have lots of challenges from life. And if you're still in a marriage, which is great, and it's hard work and well done, and we should all try our best, because when we go into a marriage, we're not taught how to carry the marriage. And if only we could do some coaching to people who are getting engaged and say, look, there's certain things you need to learn, communication skills, different kinds of skills before you go into a relationship, to know that a relationship takes a lot and you need to put in a lot to make it work. I just want to give you an example of something here. So you might have heard of a saying that if a tree falls in the forest, nobody is around to hear it. Does it make a sound? Of course it makes a sound, but we didn't hear the sound. So the same way, if we sweep divorce under the rug and don't talk about it, does it mean it doesn't exist? Does it mean the individual is not going through a painful relationship or a marriage? No, they're still going through the emotions, they're still going through the pain, but all you're doing is sweeping it under the rug as a family, as an individual, as a society, as a community. You might be surprised to know that in the Asian community, the divorce rates have gone up to 40%. And you would be shocked to hear that. But it is the truth, because with the way the world is progressing, it's becoming a very fast-paced world, and long days are gone where you used to live in a community where the children were looked after by not the mother, but the whole village. And now you have this fast-paced life where you're doing everything yourself. You're going to work, you're coming home cooking, you're driving the kids to all the classes they do, and it's become a lot that you've taken on yourself as parents, and you find less and less time for yourself. So obviously that time, if it's not there, and you go through life cycles with all this busy life, that's where all this stresses come within life, where you then struggle and you think, okay, things are not working out. And the other places things might not work out is when you get married very young, maybe, and you think you wanted something different. but you go to a place where you're 40, 50, and you want completely different things, and you might think, okay, this is not for me. Is that the reason to get divorced? I'm not sure, but it's an individual choice. You can try and make it work, and yeah, maybe it is, because you have one life only. And what is it you want to do with this one life? Do you want to continue where you're completely on two rail tracks going in different directions? And how are you going to meet in the middle? So these are thoughts that we can think about while we're thinking about, is divorce such a bad thing? And why is it still a stigma in our society? So have a think about it while we're going through the presentation, while we're talking about these things, and how is it as a community, as a society, can we have the stigma become less and less so that we can support the individual going through it in the best way possible for them and as a society? What can we do to support them? Right. So we'll move on to the next slide. And here we're talking about the different marriage cultures that we go through. We're talking about the all the is it that we go into when we go into marriage. You don't want the family name to be tarnished when you're going through divorce. You go marrying into a family. You're not just marrying the person, you're marrying a whole family. And religion plays a lot of part in a marriage, and so does family play a big part in our marriages within our South Asian community. And when the whole marriage happens, I know it's a very happy environment. We're all happy about two individuals getting together, two families getting together. And obviously, it's very upsetting to see that these two beautiful souls who you know as family, as friends, as somebody you've known as an acquaintance or a colleague or whatever, and they're going through a tough time and they're going through divorce. And people almost run away from that word. And they might even know an individual thinking of it or knowing it, and they don't want to talk about it a lot because they get tired of hearing the problems in another person's life. And this is where, as a community, as a society, as an individual, as a friend, as a family, where you can support that person, and what you can do for that person is listen to listen, and listen not to respond, but just listen, because maybe that person just wants you to listen and they just want to talk, and maybe they're not even in such a bad place, but sometimes just listening to them is enough support for them to go and think about, okay, maybe it's not that bad, and maybe I can make things better. Sometimes we're pressurized by traditions and expectations from our parents, expectations from our family and the society, that we need to make a marriage work. And more for a woman, that you need to make a marriage work, and it's your duty to make the marriage work. So I'm not saying guys have it the easy way, right? Guys, don't get me wrong, please. What we're saying here is that long since we've had that it's been said that the woman is the one who makes the home, right? So as we've gone on, things have changed. The guy used to go out and hunt. The woman used to be at home washing up the clothes and doing whatever, cooking or whatever. Then we've moved on to going to the corporate world where the guy's gone to work, the woman's still at home. And now both the men and women are working, and the workload has gone divided into both of them. So how then is it just a place for one person and not the other person? So I think both of them need to work together. If the marriage is at a place where you see some signs of a split happening or something, and there are a lot of signs that are there. We'll talk about that in the next few slides. But at this moment, we just need to know that there are lots of pressures from traditions, culture, religion, to keep a marriage going. And from certain cultures, they will not completely accept you're going through divorce. And I'm going to tell you a story here, actually. There's this girl who got married, and obviously it was an arranged marriage, and she went off obviously feeling very happy. She's getting married, her parents are happy, everybody's happy. She's gone off, and then she's come home after a few months, and she's come home and she's gone and cried to her mom and said, "Mom, I don't want to go back because he beats me up." And the mom says, "Don't worry, Beta. This is normal. It's okay. It will get better. As the marriage happens, you have kids, things will get better. Don't worry, better. Don't worry. It's okay. She goes back. She comes back after a few months and she cries to her dad. Dad, please, I don't want to go back. Please, Dad, please bring me back home. I cannot bear the beatings anymore. Please, Dad, let me come back home. And the dad says, Beta, this is about our culture. This is about defaming the name of the family. You have to go back to your husband. That is your family now. There is no other family. That is your family. You need to go back home and things will get better. Things will get better. I'll talk to him. After a few weeks, the sister of the girl, she starts waving to her parents and saying, oh, I think Didi's back home now. And I think lots of people have come with her. And they realize that it's not Didi who's coming back home. It's her body which is coming back home. So what is the moral of the story? How is it that we can empower our children, not just a woman, a man as well? How do we empower our children to be so independent or independent enough to be supportive of their partner, but yet independent enough to stand on their 2 feet if it comes to it? How do we empower them to know that if things are not going right, if things are too much, they need to know when to step out of that space and not find themselves in a coffin? That is a very strong example I gave you there, yeah? But it doesn't need to be physical abuse. Emotional abuse, mental abuse is just as bad. Financial abuse is just as bad. So how do we empower children, both the boys and the girls? If we're empowering our girls, yeah, you need to be independent, you need to be supportive of your husband, all those. We need to empower our boys to say, how can you live with an empowered woman? How can you live with an independent woman? How can you support each other? And how can you make it work for both of you? Because now we're bringing the society and the world to create independent, strong women. And how do we empower our men to say, how do you live with this empowered, independent women? And women, how do we support our men and still be the wife, still be independent, yet be supportive of our husband? How can we do that? So within a marriage, there's so many things, like within a car, to make a car work. There's so many things that need to be worked in to make that marriage going. And again, I reiterate, this whole thing is not about breaking a marriage, but it's empowering you in every possible way so that you know that there's so many things you can do to make a marriage work. When you see the first signs of something going wrong, seek help, speak to people. You can go for counseling, you can go for therapy, you can learn about communication skills, you can learn about love languages, and you can learn to listen to each other and not respond. And those are the things you need to try and do before you even think of the word divorce. So as much as we're talking about divorce, you know that divorce is not the end of your life. It is a beginning of a new chapter of your new story and your new life. It is not the end of the world, and do not count it as that at all, please. As an individual, you might start feeling lonely, you might start isolating yourself, but please be aware that that is not something that you need to be worried about at all, because things will get positive and things will get better. Let's talk about the fears that as an individual you might feel. So individuals fear being socially excluded and judged by the community when they're thinking of a divorce, going through a divorce, before divorce. And the fear extends to that stigma affecting the whole family, like we've talked about. Divorce is often seen as a personal and family failure rather than a pragmatic solution to an unhealthy relationship. So when an individual is going through problems in their life and they're really trying hard, as a society, as a community, what is it that we can do to support them, to encourage them, to come and talk to the right people, instead of just keeping on trying and not knowing how to solve the problem? Because when we go into marriage, we don't go into marriage with manuals to teach us how to work through the marriage. Like when you become a doctor, You go to school to learn to become a doctor, so then you know how to operate or how to treat diseases or illnesses. Did you go into a marriage knowing how to talk to your partner, or how to solve problems, or how to resolve challenges within the marriage? No, you have to learn it along the way. So as a society, where are we failing as a community on how to support an individual? Because already they are very fearful of all these things, of how they're going to be excluded from society, how they're going to face the stigma of a divorce, because there is still a stigma of divorce. As much as we accept it or not, there's still a stigma within the word divorce. So how, as a society, as a community, can we support that individual and help that individual so that they can come to the right people, come to the community, and maybe when the community can intervene in the early stages when it's not that bad? How can they support those two individuals, have a conversation with them so that things can be resolved at an early stage before it's gone too late? How can we as a society and as a community do that? I just want to leave you with that thought there so that we can think about it as a society and a community. And we all know that mental health can happen when you're going through a bad space in your marriage or an unhealthy relationship. It is not a secret that you can go through lots of different health issues. It can start corroding on your self-esteem and your worthiness. You start feeling unworthy. You start having all these mental health issues. You might feel depressed. You might feel suicidal. We don't know what the feelings are, but these are the things that people go through. And it's important to recognize that an individual at that stage is so anxious, is feeling so depressed. And how then, as a society or a community, are we adding to their problem by judging them, of thinking of a divorce, or why are you thinking of a divorce? Or how do we even go and ask that question? Oh, was it your decision to get divorced? Was it their decision? Was it a together decision? Who was in the wrong party? How, as a society or a community, are we asking this question to an individual who's already going through a lot? How do we do that? Is it our position to do that, to ask them that question? No. So please stop all these things and let's try and support and help as much as possible. Don't go and ask that individual. Let them lead their own life. And hence the topic, leave and let leave. The individual is going through enough. If you can't support them, do not put them any lower than what they already are, is all I'm going to say, because it is a hard thing to go through. You need a lot of courage. You need a lot of guts to go through divorce or even think of going through divorce, because you think about a lot of things that could become an issue. You could start feeling lonely. Your finances are not in place. There's so many different things that you have to think about, the children, everything. So we'll go through the different slides and then we'll see what else can you can face while going through divorce. So whilst going through divorce, you can start having chronic stress, which can lead to physical health problems and continued high levels of cortisons, which what can happen is flight or fight mode. You're always at that stage. And at that stage, then you start having major physical problems. So how then do you sort yourself out so that you're not in this stress mode when you're going through divorce? There are lots of things you can do. You can go for meditation, yoga. There are lots of different things. Write a diary about gratitude, because there are lots of things we should still be grateful for whilst we're going through all this, because you still have a roof over your head. You still have your children. You still maybe have your parents. There are lots of things we need to be grateful for. The air we breathe, the garden, flowers, lots of things. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's talk about the impact on children. That when you have children, when you're going to marry, children are exposed to constant arguments, or sometimes maybe parents are considerate enough not to argue in front of the children, and they argue when they're sleeping. But the children who are slightly older know what's going on, even if you're doing it quietly. They still get that impact of the instability of that marriage. Because they see you together sometimes, and then sometimes one person will always be upstairs, one person will be downstairs. The children realize there's something not right here. Even if they're little, they know the impact. And the stress of a high conflict environment can lead to behavior issues within children. And when they go to school, they have all these issues. It can negatively impact their performance at school. And children may internalize this, thinking it is them who's causing the unhealthy relationship. So would you rather remain in a marriage which is very abusive in whatever way? And again, I reiterate, abuse is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, financial. Or do you try and make that marriage work? And if you've tried everything, then do you then say, okay, I need to find a solution, and there are solutions there. Can I come out of this? Because you might think it's because of the children you're remaining in the marriage, but that is not the case, because that is only an excuse. Because the children are seeing everything that's happening within that marriage, and you're not even realizing the impact it's having on them. The children face the consequences of everything that goes on within these troubled marriages. So witnessing a troubled marriage can lead to difficulties in forming trusting relationships, and they might think this is the way marriages are meant to be, and they might go on to find toxic relationships. Children may become socially withdrawn or have difficulty forming peer relationships. And children may also take an adult responsibility on thinking, okay, I'm the parent here, I'm the one who's going to mother my mom or dad because they're always crying or whatever. So let's be in that powerful place where we know that we're struggling within a relationship. Where can we go and find the help we need? Because there's a lot of help out there in the communities and the societies. And if it's not there, ask your community members, how is it that I can find help? Because there is a lot of help out there, and you will find it. I promise you that. So seek that help, find that help. And let's talk about stress. Stress can also have a communal effect in a family unit, and an unhappy marriage creates a toxic home environment. And like we've talked about, children lack examples of healthy relationships and conflict resolution. So what are we teaching our children by remaining in a marriage which is full of toxicity? What are we teaching them as a role model? That it's okay to be in an abusive marriage or marriage which is not working. You're not happy, but sustain that marriage because marriage is meant to be for life? Or are we going to teach them that you've tried your best, you've tried everything possible in your power to make it work, and if it's not working, you've tried the communications and everything, then how do you step out of this zone and empower yourself to get a better life? How some of the supports that we have within people around us, how they can become problematic. So we could be within a marriage, like I told you that story before about the girl coming home and her parents, in a way, they thought they were supporting her by saying, no, this is okay, this is normal. You could have somebody telling you it's okay, don't worry about it, divorce is not something you need to consider or not. Things will get better. Or there are lots of things where support can come in many different ways. So please seek the right support. Don't go for biased support when an individual is going to give you a biased opinion. Go and seek the right support at the right place. And without a supportive network, individuals feel trapped and unable to make changes. So how, as a society and as a community, can we support this individual to make their life better? I just want to take you through a few things that I've written down here because I felt that this is very important. So walking away from a harmful relationship takes courage and strength. An individual may feel shame and disappointment. They feel a failure within themselves when they're coming out of a marriage. And what can we do to support them? How can you help as a community, as a friend? Keep reaching out to them, sending them messages, go and visit them, invite them out, invite them to the community. And they will struggle, they'll find it hard, but don't stop to try. Cooking a meal for them and taking it to them, dropping in on them and taking it to them. It's a little gesture, but it goes a long way. Offer to help with specific chores, because when you're going through all these emotions, because divorce is a roller coaster of emotions. You feel depressed, you feel anger, you feel frustration, you're in denial stage, then you go to the acceptance stage, then again back to depression. There's a roller coaster of different emotions, and you don't even know what stage you are at. So help these people by doing little things for them. There's so many small ways we as a society, as a family, as a friend can help support them. Go and just sit down at the place, watch a movie with them. Simple. It's nothing difficult. We can do little things to help them. And please don't judge them because they're going through enough. I reiterate that please do not judge them because you have not walked in their shoes. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know how they came to this decision. They never thought they're going to go for a divorce when they got married. So how, as a society or as an individual, are you judging them to think they're going to a divorce? No, let's stop all that. We shouldn't be judging them. This is not something which an individual makes a decision lightly to go for a divorce. It's a very difficult decision. So support them, empower them if they've tried everything, and then let's make it happen. Let's see if I have anything else that I haven't covered. And again, I'm going to reiterate the stigma is rooted in a mixture of fear and lack of understanding of the norms of outside of our society because we go into a marriage normally thinking it's going to end in death. And those are the norms. And so this grain of divorce is going against anything we've been brought up, we've been taught, and things have changed. Things are different now. So how do we make this work? None of us wants divorce, but it happens. Shit happens. Life happens. How do we make life better for ourselves? And there's so many things you need to consider here. Put your ducks in a row. Make sure you've thought about your finances, your children, how you're going to do different things. If at any stage you feel you're not even sure, come and talk to me. It doesn't have to be that you're thinking of divorce and you'll go through divorce. Maybe you haven't thought of other scenarios where I or somebody else can help you to sustain that marriage. Or maybe you haven't thought about how you can get out of a marriage because you think finances are a problem or where you're going to stay or you're going to be lonely. Come and talk to me or other individuals and let's get you the help you need. Right. Let's talk about. So before divorce, people tend to struggle to accept the reality of an unhappy marriage. So this is when you're in complete denial. You're worrying about the future, a future which you haven't even thought about. You start worrying about it. That, oh my God, what am I going to do alone? How am I going to do this alone? How am I going to support my children alone? How am I going to live alone? How am I going to manage my finances? How am I going to? How am I? You already think of all these different things. You haven't even put it pen to paper. The first thing I would suggest to any individual is write all the good things in your marriage on one side of a paper. On the other side, write all the bad things if a marriage is not working. And see if the bads outweigh the good or the good outweigh the bad. And if one is outweighing the other, you have that answer that either is working or not working, or can you make it work if they're almost half-half. So that's the first step you should do to see if there's issues in your marriage. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to see where I am. So I'm going to rush to the next few slides. And during divorce, people tend to mourn the loss of the relationship and shared dreams, because when you went into the marriage, you had a dream, you had shared dreams, and you mourn the death. You're grieving the death of your relationship, your marriage, because you invested your time, your love, everything into that relationship. So you're going through grieving. So let's realize that a person who's going through divorce is grieving just like a person who's lost a husband or a wife or a parent. They're grieving their relationship. Let's support them and help them, please. Let's not put them in a worse situation than what they already are. Lights. How can we reframe divorce? Yeah, divorce is a very bad word. Everybody thinks, oh my God, you're a divorce coach. Wow. But I'm a divorce coach because I want to empower the individual to make the right decision, whether to stay in the marriage or to come out, and then empower themselves to have self-love, to make a better life for themselves, like I did. Divorce can be a step forward, reclaiming personal happiness and well-being. Recognize divorce as a solution to unsustainable or abusive relationships. Encouraging individuals to prioritize their own mental and emotional health. The first thing before anything else is love yourself. Have the relationship with yourself first. If you don't love yourself, who else is going to love you? The love to yourself comes first before anything else, because if you are not going to be okay, if your mental health is not going to be okay, you will not be any good for your children or your parents or anybody else. So love yourself first. Seek the help you need when you're going through mental and emotional health, and promoting a more accepting and supportive view of divorce in the community. Let's start supporting and helping these individuals going through these changes. And let's change the way one views a subject, and how can we help people. Improving mental health or outcomes by reducing the stigma around divorce can really change family dynamics post-divorce. So after a person's gone through divorce, accept them for who they are. You could be married for 20 years in a marriage, but as soon as you get divorced, the family of your ex don't want to know you. You never had any problems with them or the wife's family, but yet there is this thing about not wanting to know you, although you are not the problem with them. So let's not do all those things. Yeah, let's try and be supportive to both the individuals, the husband and the wife, and do whatever we can to support them in every way possible. Have workshops, have groups, have meetups, have singles meetups to talk about the pain they're going through, the grieving they're going through, and how they can move forward, how they can find a lawyer, how they can find a mediator, whatever it takes to get there. And I'm quickly going to touch on physical intimacy because it's something important. We, as a society, as a community, we don't like talking about it. It is important in a marriage. It is not just for having children. It is something to talk about openly with your partner, not to somebody else, but to your partner as to what is right, what's wrong, what your needs are. So as a society, as a community, we've never been taught how to talk about intimacy. But these are things that as two partners, you need to talk about. And if there's trouble there's lots of things you can go and do. You can seek therapy, counseling, and improve your relationship so it doesn't get to a stage where one of your partners is either going out there to seek other things, but you can sort your marriage out. So I'm going to leave it at that because it was just touching on that subject. And my parting thoughts is easy to get caught up in the labels and the jargons and scandal of divorce, especially in brown cultures. And getting and providing the right help is the most important step here. This can also include couples counseling or individual therapy. So I'm not advocating divorce. If you think you can make this marriage work and you should try, please seek counseling or couples therapy. If not, and you think, I'm not sure, come and talk to me. I'll give you a 20-minute, half an hour free call. Come and talk to me. Let's see what we can do for you. Are you in the right space? Maybe you just think it's a bad marriage where it's not, and we can help you improve that marriage. So come and talk to me and come and let's find a solution to your problems. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is a word called SCLAF. SCLAF. SCLAFF. These are the red flags to look out for. S is for status and marriage and society norms. So S, are you staying in the marriage for status? That, oh, I'm married, you have a ring on your finger and you don't want to show the world you're divorced or whatever. Are you scared of change? Are you scared of all that? Is communication happening within your marriage or not? Are you not talking to each other? Are you scared of being lonely? Are you worried? Are you lonely within your marriage? Are you just living under one roof and you're lonely? You're not talking to each other? Are you always anxious? Are you going to work and you're anxious to come home because you're worried about the arguments you're going to have at home? Are you anxious of all these things? Then this is a red flag because you're scared of coming home. Why? This is your home. Why are you scared about that? Are you F for finance? Are you worried about finances? Is finance causing the problem in your marriage? Or is finance something you're thinking that I can't go out of this marriage, although I'm not happy and finance is an issue or is a problem? Come and talk to me. Is F fear the problem? Are you fearful that you can't live alone? Are you fearful of the society judging you? Are you fearful of the change? Are you fearful of being judged? Are you fearful of living by yourself? What is it you're fearful of? There's nothing to be feared. You will become a stronger person. You'll become an empowered person. So the word is SCLAFF. S, status. C, change, communication. L, loneliness. A, anxiety. F, finance. F, fear. So thank you so much for listening to me. And my name is Varsha Hathi again. And this is my email address. Drop me an email if you want to chat. I will give you 20 minutes to half an hour free consultation. It doesn't have to go anywhere. Let's just have a chat and let's see how we can help you and support you in your marriage or in your divorce. Thank you so much. And I'll now introduce you to Rishma, who's a mediator. She is another person who can be very supportive and helpful when you're going through divorce. So welcome, Rishma, to our chat. Let me come out of my slides. Rishma, welcome.
Thank you, Varsha. Hi, everyone. So my name is Rishma Gudka. I'm a fully accredited family mediator and a registered member of Family Mediation Council. I'm also trained as a child inclusive mediator, and I've been a childline counsellor in the past as well, working with children. I know Monica introduced me at the start, so thank you. I have moved from my previous career in finance and consulting to mediation because I'm passionate about helping people to move forward, to see situations differently and to understand different perspectives. It's not just a job for me. I'm really grateful to be able to speak to you a little bit about mediation today. So I'm going to talk about a few things. So firstly, what mediation is, the benefits of mediation, a little bit about the start of the process, how, if you did want to engage in the process, what that looks like, and where mediation can help and where it can be used. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please do put them in the comments on YouTube, just if you do have any questions. Okay, so what is mediation? The mediation is a confidential voluntary process which gives you the opportunity to come to mutually beneficial agreements between two or more people, can be businesses and other organizations as well, but I'm going to focus on family mediation specifically. It can provide a safe environment for you and your ex-partner, or it might be another family member, where you can discuss options, put forward proposals, and come to agreements outside of the court process or other legal routes, whether it's about child arrangements or financial agreements or something else. The role of the mediator is to guide and to help facilitate the discussions, and most importantly, to be impartial. So it's important that both parties listen to each other during the mediation process, and a mediator can help to ensure that both sides are being heard and understood. It can really make a difference to have an independent third person there that doesn't know either party, and compared to speaking to that person directly, especially if the communication isn't good, it can make a big difference. I just wanted to touch on a few benefits of mediation. So I'll go through kind of 5 key benefits and then just go into detail a little bit on each of those. So firstly, it's a completely confidential process. It's flexible. It can enable better communication between both sides. It's more cost effective than other options, and it's quicker in terms of timeframes. So I'll just go into a little bit of detail around each of these. So the first one, confidentiality. So anything you discuss in mediation is confidential. So if you do end up going to court for whatever reason, anything discussed in mediation throughout the process, it can't be referred back to. I think that is an important point, because it does give you the opportunity to discuss options and ideas freely without that pressure. The second benefit, flexibility. So you stay in control of the decisions. And that's also very important. So if you're able to come to agreements that you're comfortable with, that you both feel are fair, then you're more likely to stick to them. It can also be more beneficial for children sometimes. There's something called child inclusive mediation, which I mentioned earlier, which can take into account the child's view and their perspective into the process as well. Sometimes, if you do go by the court option, court orders can be quite rigid. They might not work in the long term, and the needs of the children might change as they grow up. So agreements that are made in mediation, it can be amended over time if needed. Also, options that you discuss in mediation can be tested. They can be done on a trial basis, so you can see if they work for the children and for you and your ex-partner before finalising any agreements. The third benefit, communication. So mediation can provide an opportunity for you to have better communication with the other party, especially if children are involved. It's much easier on them when you can co-parent effectively, and if you have that foundation there for communication. So it can enable that as well. Any disagreements that you might have early on can be discussed in the room in a safe and structured environment, and it enables that open dialogue, which you might not have if you went by other options. Costs. So mediation is less expensive than going to court. I'm not going to say too much more about this now, but it is considerably cheaper than going through the whole process via solicitors, for example. And lastly, quicker time frame. So mediation can normally start straight away. You can reach a resolution within months, and this can really help you move on and move forward with your life compared to other options which might take longer. I think overall, trying mediation first, it can be a less stressful process than the alternate options. It's already a really challenging time for families going through a separation or a divorce. So it does allow for your view to be heard, and it gives you some certainty about what the outcomes might be. So how does mediation work? How do you get started? So the first step of the mediation process is to have an individual meeting with an accredited mediator. So that meeting is called a MIAMS meeting, a Mediation Information and Assessment meeting. So it's a very informal session. It's a chance for you to find out more about the process, ask questions that you may have. It's also an opportunity for the mediator to assess if your case is suitable for mediation. Not all cases will be suitable, especially, for example, if there are any safeguarding concerns, if there's any violence involved, any threatening behaviour, and if that is the case, the mediator will tell you what options you have for moving forward. Some cases might have an element of a power imbalance, and most mediators are trained to manage this in the sessions as well. After the first meeting, you would then move on to your joint mediation sessions. If you are going to appoint a mediator, and I'll say this now, please do make sure that they are listed on the Family Mediation Council website and that they are accredited. That is really important because those are the mediators that have had the correct training that's required. I'll also say here for child arrangements, at the end of the outcome, you can get a detailed parenting plan. Similarly, for financial cases, you would get the final documentation at the end of the mediation process, normally called a memorandum of understanding or open financial statement. So you'd get the documents that you would get if you went via the court process. They're not legally binding at the end of the mediation process, but it's quite a simple step to convert them into legal documents at the end via a solicitor. And just a bit more information which might be useful. Mediation is not it doesn't provide legal advice. Mediators can provide legal information, but they can't give legal advice. So it is important, if you feel you need it, to seek legal advice along the way in parallel to the mediation process so that you do feel prepared. You know about your rights, for example, and you know what you might be comfortable to agree with when you make those final decisions in the sessions. You might want to engage in a solicitor at the end, again, to review the final documentation or to turn the documents into a legal document. The other thing that mediation is not is it doesn't provide marriage counselling. So mediation is a forward-looking process. It focuses on the practical arrangements after change. And I know I'm kind of speeding through, I'm just conscious of time. Lastly, I just want to cover a few areas where mediation can help. So mediation can help in all matters of family conflict and dispute. So as I mentioned, child arrangements, financial arrangements, childcare costs or child maintenance, disputes between different generations in the family, disagreements on differing parenting styles, if there's important big decisions that need to be made and you can't agree. So you can use mediation for that as well, and any conflicts resulting in any cultural differences as well. If you know, people have married outside of our kind of community or Asian backgrounds, you know, if there's any cultural differences and can't agree on something, then you can come to mediation for those things as well. So just to conclude, I just wanted to kind of mention a few points. So families who start mediation will more often than not come to an agreement without having to go to court. I know hearing other people's kind of perspectives, it's not always easy to do, but I do believe that through effective listening and successful communication that you can move on in a positive way. I know in our culture and community especially, it's not easy to talk about divorce and Varsha has gone over some of this already. So I think the confidentiality aspect can be very important. If you do want to discuss anything further in confidence, if you have any questions, please do reach out. I've just tried to give a very brief summary about what mediation is here, but you can find my details on the Family Mediation Council website and also my own website, rgmediation.co.uk. I think people are more willing to understand or try to understand that sometimes things don't work out, and it's not about putting blame on someone or about judgment. It's about what can be done now to move forward and maintain those important family relationships that you might want for the children especially. Yeah, thank you for listening and for allowing me to speak today. I will hand over to Monica.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Right. Hi. So I'm one of the case studies today. I just want you to know that my journey started a long time ago. I started 7 years ago. And I always tried to mask things in my marriage so nobody would know there was anything wrong. And I continued doing that because that's what you're taught. You're taught that, you just need to keep trying, and keep trying. And that's what I did. But one of the first things I lost in this was my confidence and myself, my physical self, as well as my mental and everything else with it. I was scared and I wasn't scared about how people would judge me when I started contemplating divorce. I was very lucky though. I met many friends along the way with similar experiences who guided me, helped me. They didn't just say go straight into the divorce. They were like, okay, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And then we went through it from there. However, one day when things were really, really bad, I actually sat down with my mama and my cousin. And we went through some stuff and we discussed it, and they really helped me because they were family. They knew me. They knew where I was at, and it helped me. But my relationship, can I just say, with my ex-husband is very amicable. It's very civil. And for the sake of my kids, I realize I always need to try my best to get on with them and for them. I've always been open to my children. I've always told them what might happen, just so they were aware, they were prepared, and that really helped them both. And they know that they have a loving family from both sides. Recently, both my children admitted that we were better apart than together. And that in itself makes me feel good because I know that having continued staying in that relationship, it wouldn't have helped them, wouldn't have helped me, and it wouldn't have helped my ex-husband. So I'm really happy about that. And one of the other things that they said was that we don't put any pressure on them. We don't tell them that you need to be with this person or that person or do it this way or that way. We let them be, and they decide and they tell us what they want. Whilst being on this journey, though, I've had to have counseling to help me because my confidence was on the ground and I felt that I was incapable, useless, unable to do anything. The worst parent, the worst mother, the worst sister, the worst daughter, anything you could think of, I was thinking it. And even contemplated so many other things which I don't want to go into because I would never encourage it. So I was a teacher for 20 years and I left that. I took some time out. I went and studied fine art for 2 years. And this just shows that you can grow. You don't have to be stuck in one thing. You can move on. And now I'm an enrollment officer in a college. And I'm happy. I'm happy with where I am. I've also felt judged by the community at times, when people have heard rumors about my separation and everything. People tried coaxing things, asking me things, asking family members what's happening. And I'm so grateful to all those that said, if you want to ask, go and ask her. She will tell you. And I would wholeheartedly would have said it because I'm not scared of talking about it anymore. Um, please, please give those that are going through such traumatic times space, empathy, and not judgment. Empower them. Don't and empower yourself. Don't let it bring you down because there's no right answer. Okay? I've met some amazing people along the way. One of them is a father of two amazing girls. And those girls chose to stay with their dad, which, sometimes dads are the better choice. And you can see that he gives them strength, and every day managing parenthood is hard work. When I haven't felt good about myself, people have come up to me and said that they've seen a difference in me since I've separated. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying it's changed me in a person. I was very tense and quite not difficult, but stressed a lot. And now I feel calm and collected. And I have a different glow and aura, and that I look good. Okay, and probably shouldn't be saying this, but I've been told that I look sexy. So anyhow, that makes me feel good. So moving away from my marriage has been good for all, especially my mental and physical health. Divorce for me may or may not have been the last resort, but what I would say is to be open, talk, be transparent, try and find something that created that spark, get help if you need it. And someone taught me and reminded me about this recently. I must admit, I must be the luckiest human around. When I told my families, both sides of them, none of them asked me what, why, when, how, whatever. They just said, okay, we are here for you. When you need us, ask. Okay? So, and it's amazing. My committee members who I told soon after, again, never said anything. They were amazing. They just supported me through it and they understood. However, on a final note, you will realize unless some of them know someone going through it, so people, what happens is if you don't know someone that's going through this, you don't really know what to ask, what to say, how to do it. But like Varsha Ben said, at this point, this is when you say, okay, just give them a call, just check if they're okay, just see if they need something, even if it's just like, let's just go for a coffee or a tea, anything. And I'm really lucky in that sense. I have that. You will need to become strong and resilient to everything and think about which battles you want to fight and which ones you don't. And then not necessarily, you don't have to fight any of them if you don't want to. Just move away from them. Never forget, and this is really, really important, never forget, be your true self, authentic self. Never change because we're all imperfect. Okay? We're all imperfect selves. So allow it. And at this juncture, I want to just say thank you to listening to me. And if you feel that you need someone who's been through it, who you need to talk to, feel free to. But I am going to keep empowering myself and being my imperfect self. Thank you. I think we're going to pass on. I think we're going to go into Q&A now.
Hi, thank you, Varsha Ben. Thank you, Reshma. Really interesting topic. And I think, Varsha Ben, you summed it up quite nicely when you were saying such a taboo subject. There's so much that people don't want to really talk about openly. But we have got some questions for our panel today, and I'm going to start off with the first one. So the question is, we've got a few on YouTube and a few that have come through directly to us. So I'm going to do this in reverse. And my first question is actually for Reshma. Reshma, we've got a question saying, how does mediation help if only one partner is committed to this process?
Okay. So that can be very challenging. Mediation is voluntary. So, if somebody doesn't want to engage in the mediation process, then can't force them to. I think it really does depend on the topics. If it's to do with child contact, for example, and they just don't want to commit to agreements or commit to talking or discussing about it, then you can't force someone to have a relationship with their own children. For example, if it's to do with finances and they're not willing to engage in the process, it could be because they just don't want to come to a settlement. So then maybe other options might need to be considered. I think if someone is not fully committed to the mediation process and doesn't come into the process with the right intentions, then even if you did kind of make some progress and come to agreements, it's not very likely that they will stick to those agreements if they're not invested in it right from the start. So I think it's difficult. And if someone's not willing to engage, then it might be that you just need to look at other options. But that's where that initial meeting, the MIAMS meeting, comes into play. It's very important because if they're at least willing to come to that initial session, then they can find out about the process and we talk about the benefits and why it will help them. And if they're still not willing to engage, then unfortunately, you might need to look at other options.
So it does require the commitment of both parties for it to be beneficial. Thank you, Rishma. I'm going to pass on to Nikita to ask the next question.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Laben. This could be either Varsha or Rishma to answer. Would you recommend...
Nikki, turn your camera on.
It is.
Carry on, Nikita. Yeah.
Would you recommend counseling before making the final decision to divorce?
I'll answer that actually. It depends on where you are within your separation, divorce, or conversations around it. But absolutely, it can help. The coaching, which I do, and the counseling as well. Because when a person comes to me, and if I feel there's space to support the marriage and make it work, I will push them in that direction first before I encourage them to go for a divorce, because divorce is not the answer to all the problems. But yet, if you are in a major abusive relationship, then yes, divorce is the answer. So yes, counseling, coaching, it can all help. And it is the right way to go about things, to see that you've tried everything before you say, okay, it's the end of the road. It can help.
Thank you. Prof. Laven?
So this one's actually posted on YouTube in Varsha Ben's It's For You. It says it's important to recognize that husbands can be victims too, and they go through the same emotions and difficulties. Really good point, actually, because we often talk about women and we do forget that there are actually two people in this situation.
I'd like to respond to that. My apologies. If at any stage you felt this was just for women and maybe I came across as that, my apologies. But I totally recognize that men go through the same thing, if not more, because men don't like talking about their emotion. Men don't like going to talk to their friends about the problems they're going through. So more so for men than women to be able to acknowledge what you're saying and to try and help you and support you and find the solution for you. So thank you for pointing that out.
Okay. The next question is, how do you manage relationships with your ex's family after divorce? Breakups mean people lose touch with their families.
I just want to give an example here, if I may. And I purposely brought that topic up actually. After I got divorced and I'd gone to a family wedding where I was invited by my exes, because I've been longer in the marriage than I was as a child in my parents' house. And people started actually moving away from the table. I was sat on to another table because I was there. Come on. That is not something, what is that? So there are lots of little things they do like that, like they don't talk to your children properly. And you've been in that family dynamics for years. So we're not saying you're moving away. So if you're inviting them to a wedding or whatever function it is, don't treat them like dirt. Don't treat them like they don't exist. Don't treat them like they were not your family. They can still be your family. My ex's brother, he still comes and sees us for Christmas and the children's birthdays. You can still maintain that relationship. It doesn't need to go sour. The only relationship which went sour was the husband and wife. And even I and Rishma would say the same thing. We always encourage couples to, especially when they have children, to make sure that they sustain a good relationship so they can bring up the children together properly, because they need to have that co-parenting work properly. So even if you're not husband and wife, you need to have that relationship to bring up your children properly. Rishma, do you have anything to add?
That is, sorry, the only thing I'd add to that is try and keep the relationship that you have with your ex-partner, however that may be, separate to other relationships that, you know, maybe between the children and their father, or children and the grandparents. That's often quite a common one, where two people are separated, but the children then don't have free access to the other, you know, the ex-partner's parents, or, you know, to the children, they're just grandparents. And it's important that the children do get to maintain those relationships separate to what's going on with the parents. I think at the end of the day, when the children are older as well, this is one thing I say to all my clients, you know, when the children are older and they look back at this time, what do you want them to remember? What story do you want them to remember in their mind? And that's what it really comes down to, trying to do the best for the children in that difficult situation. So try and keep it separate if you can, what I would say.
Moni, did you want to add something to that?
Well, yeah, I think I've had a very different experience to Varsha. My Sasu just passed away, as some might know, and I've been really lucky that I was very nervous to go back into the family, but they've been really welcoming and really kind and stuff, and so it's not been so difficult as I thought it was going to be. So it can be, and I think both of my kids are very lucky that they've had access both to their daddy and their nana who were living. So yeah.
Great. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to make this our last question, if that's okay with everyone. Rishma, I'm going to come back to you. So this one is mediation only an option if children are involved? And are there other options?
So there's different types of mediation cases. So you can have cases which just involve children and talking about child arrangements and contact arrangements, or you can come to mediation if it's just to do with financial settlements or financial agreements, or both, child and finances, where it's all issues. They call them all issues cases. So it can be anything, and it doesn't just have to be child and finance related. It can be to do with communication between a teenager and one parent. For example, if communication has broken down, that's where child inclusive mediation might be helpful. So it can be to do with anything really, where there's kind of any family conflict or dispute. It doesn't have to involve just children. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Great, thank you very much. So we haven't got any more questions. I don't know if any of the panel want to add anything to this, and then we're going to do some thank yous and talk about our next session, which isn't for a little while actually, for this series of webinars and our face-to-face sessions at ECTA Center. So final word from anyone or any of you?
I'll just add quickly, I've reiterated, but I'll say it again, that if you're in a space where you feel that you're going through divorce, please by no means feel that you're a failure. Don't be worried about the judgment you might get or whatever, and we should stop judging people. And also go and look for the support, go and look for the help. There's lots of help out there, and you will come out an empowered person. Where I am today, my self-worth, my self-esteem, my confidence has really increased. Like Monica said, that hers has increased as well. So you will become a better person. The things we go into a marriage and we forget our dreams, but after your divorce, you go and find your dreams again. So it's not that bad as we think it is. Yeah. So let's not make it all negative. So again, and co-parenting as well, please make sure that you're not bringing your children into these arguments, leave them out of them, and let's find a good solution to come out of it amicably if we can, and that will be a perfect way to do it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Varsha. And so it's not the end, but it's the start of a different journey, and a different journey maybe with different people, but also not forgetting all those lovely people that you had in your previous relationship as well. So huge thank you to all the people who joined us on YouTube. So we had at some point, I think 72 people, which is really good, very engaged conversation. Going to say thank you to Varsha for joining us, and really bringing a lot of insight into this quite difficult topic that people don't often want to talk about, don't want to actually acknowledge that it is a growing problem in the community, whether that's our community or other communities. And you talked about brown heritage and traditions a little bit in your talk. And you talked about the stigma, and I think that is such a real thing, and it does stop people actually finding those resolutions and solutions to the relationship breakdown, because you're also in your mind all the time thinking about all the other people you're going to let down maybe. So really good conversation, and we hope to have a second session on this at some point in the future. Rishma, thank you. You've done a superb job in explaining the role of mediators. It is confusing because people are going through very traumatic journey. There's the whole legal side, there's the whole financial side, there are the relationships, there are the children, there's the grandparents and others that we've talked about. And again, if anyone has any more questions, we know where we can come to in terms of the mediation process. Going to thank my lovely colleagues Nikita and Monica for joining us today and doing all of the fantastic work in the background to set this up, and not forgetting our lovely technical support person who's off camera. Can I be staying off camera, maybe putting camera on, I'm not sure. So Mehul Bhai, thank you for stepping in and keeping us all on track and hosting this today. So thanks everyone again for joining us, talking about our future programs and future seminars. They will always be on a Wednesday evening, either at ECTA Center face-to-face or on a screen like we're doing today. And look out for more information about those on our messages on the WhatsApp groups. Thank you everyone again.
Can I just say a huge thank you, Prafula Ben? As always, very supportive and learning a lot from you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Varsha Ben, Rishma,
Thank you for inviting me.
and Mehul. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
दर्शन करता ओम नमो हरिहरताणं सिद्ध